You know, I've covered a lot of Nintendo leaks and rumors in the past couple months, but this Nintendo leak gets me extremely excited for the coming months, not only for Nintendo Switch in 2020 and beyond, but also Nintendo Directs. Whenever we end up getting a new Nintendo Direct, here's hoping for those rumors for the August Nintendo Direct being true. Hey guys, it's Rob here, and welcome back to the Robo-chan Show, where we cover the latest gaming news, leaks, and rumors from Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo in 2020 and beyond. If you want to be kept up on the latest gaming news, make sure you click that red subscribe button below this video and that notification bell so you know when I upload. In this video, we're going to go over a huge leak by a new Nintendo leaker that sprouted up a couple months ago, if I recall correctly, and has been gaining some traction. And as always, how this could fit into those rumored August Nintendo Directs going forward, as well as a Kelios leak, and other Nintendo Direct leaks or Nintendo news that could potentially be related to this. It's time to put my detective hat on. So Nintendo has been taking their sweet time with Nintendo Switch news, and I think a lot of us Nintendo Switch owners are still waiting to hear about new Nintendo Switch games, not only for 2020, if there are any anyways, and also 2021, and what Nintendo plans on doing about the next-gen games when it comes to third-party Nintendo Switch games. And that's just for new Nintendo Switch games. That doesn't count other Nintendo Switch games that have either been rumored or that we're still waiting on, like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4, which I would love to see more on Metroid Prime 4 since we only have one trailer for that. Come on, Nintendo, give us some more information on this game. And of course, we can't forget about other Nintendo Switch games that are not first party, like Bayonetta 3 and heck, even Bravely Default, one of the most anticipated Nintendo Switch games for me personally as a JRPG fan, doesn't have an exact date yet. And then you throw in the Nintendo Switch leaks and rumors, which again, take those with a giant grain of salt because they could not be true, but thinking about the possibility of those Super Mario 35th anniversary games being true and playing games like Super Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Sunshine on the go on the Nintendo Switch would be fantastic, because I don't know about you guys, but I've never finished some of the Mario games or I've never played them. So it would be kind of cool to have them on the Nintendo Switch and get that chance. And you know, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It's not really about Nintendo Directs for me personally. I just want to know what the release timeline looks like for Nintendo Switch games. We've all invested a lot of money into this platform, so the lack of transparency and silence from Nintendo is kind of leaving us in a dark place. And it's kind of scary here. But lo and behold, we have a huge Nintendo Switch leak in a time where Nintendo Switch leaks is all we really have to be excited for right now. For now, anyways. Let's hope those August Nintendo Direct rumors are true. But let's not waste any more time and go through these Nintendo Switch leaks, because there is some really exciting Nintendo Switch leaks here, and if true, might just be worth all the wait that we've been experiencing. New Mother/Earthbound/reboot, new Skylander toys, Metroidvania game for Nintendo, new Metroid, re-releases of Nintendo 64 games, new Dragon Quest game, new game related to Undertale, ? Nintendo using a legacy IP in a very unexpected way. Two pieces of hardware, one obvious, one not obvious. New DK related property, Mario, everyone knows already. A non-Breath of the Wild 2 Zelda game, and a new Square Enix property. I can't say too much yet. I can confirm that the weird thing about past games, systems, I cannot confirm when it's happening, but I have hinted at it quite a bit, and I hope my hints make sense soon. But think about a very easy way for Nintendo to rake in tons of money. Some of this is very soon. Others, I have no idea. Now, as always, take this with a grain of salt and just think of these as fake for now until they end up being true, and we'll know if they're not true very soon, because she says that it's coming very soon, so we'll know fairly soon. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the two pieces of hardware, one obvious and one not obvious. So if you haven't heard yet, in the Nintendo shareholder meeting, there was some talks about the next Nintendo console, which link to that video will pop up in the top right corner of the screen right now if you want to watch that, or continue watching. So if these leaks are true, we could possibly see a new iteration of the Switch, or a Switch Pro, or something along those lines for the next generation, because it is just around the corner. You know, it just dawned on me and just hit me that the next generation of gaming is in 4 months. It's gonna be in October and November. No, less than 4 months. That's crazy. Time really does fly fast. But anyways, getting back on track on the topic at hand, the second one could be a number of things. Could be one of Nintendo's weird experiments like they did with the Lego NES and the Labo. It could be a N64 classic system or something we don't even have the ability to think about. Because when it comes to Nintendo, they are full of crazy and wacky ideas that no one would think about. Now, those Mario rumors are appearing again, which I'm glad to see here that they haven't gone away, but that doesn't state exactly what games are in this Mario rumor, so it could not be pointing to the Super Mario 35th anniversary rumors, but it does say that we all pretty much know about it, so I'm guessing that's what she's talking about. But moving on to the next part of this leak, there is something that really perked my ears. Or Joy-Cons? Do I even have ears? Anyways, it says a non-Breath of the Wild 2 Zelda game, and our reaction will be, oh, duh, when it launches. Now, she doesn't say a new Zelda game like she mentions a new DK related properties, so it makes me wonder if we're finally gonna get that Wind Waker on the Nintendo Switch, which if so, that is an instant pickup. I'd even be willing to sell some of my games to buy that, because with the next generation of gaming, my account is going to look a little sad after all the purchases that I will hopefully be able to make. Now, of course, there is always a possibility of getting a new Zelda game that we aren't even really thinking about, because new Zelda games in the series is always a thing. We could be getting another maybe game with Toon Link. We could be getting another spin-off for Zelda. We could be even maybe getting something we're not even thinking about. There's always a lot of possibilities when it comes to a new Zelda game, because there are so many different Zelda games coming out, and have come out too. Now, the leak says that we'll be getting a new Metroid game too, and a while back there were rumblings of an OG Metroid game being remade on the Nintendo Switch, along with a Metroid Prime trilogy, so that could be what she's speaking of. She doesn't say Metroid Prime 4, so I don't think she's talking about Metroid Prime 4, which is unfortunate because I would love to hear something on that game, but a new Metroid game could be really cool. But on the flip side, it could not be about those remasters, because the word new is in there, so maybe we're getting a whole new Metroid game. I think taking the gameplay of Samus Returns and refining it and making a whole new Metroid game could be pretty cool. Now, I know the next part is going to get a lot of Nintendo Switch fans and Monster Hunter players really excited, and that's for a new Monster Hunter. And with Monster Hunter World bringing in a whole new slew of player base, I think people who own a Nintendo Switch and do own Monster Hunter World will probably buy a new Monster Hunter, and we'll probably see a huge bump in sales if that is true and if it's released. And of course, it's going to be very different from Monster Hunter World. It's probably going to be more of what you're used to on a Monster Hunter Nintendo game. Now, there is one right at the top that might have caught your eye. Everyone is waiting for a Mother 3 to come to Nintendo Switch. It's become pretty much a meme by now, but what if we got a reboot on the whole series? Now, this series is a series that I haven't played at all myself, but I know there is a huge install base for this series, and I think a reboot could either go one of two ways. It could make a lot of people angry, or it could get a lot of people excited. And I think it would be cool to bring this game that hasn't seen the light of day for a very long time and bring it into the new age of gaming. And moving on, we have a new Donkey Kong King related property, which I hope is a sequel to Donkey Kong 64. I've been waiting for that forever. That would be insanely cool, and maybe even be on the same level as Mario Odyssey, introduce some cool mechanics that transform the gameplay, and I think it would be one hell of a sequel to Donkey Kong 64. If not, I could see another Tropical Freeze type game. But there's one word in that sentence that you really need to look at, and that's related property. There is a possibility that we could see something that's related to the Donkey Kong property, and what game isn't like a Donkey Kong game like a Tropical Freeze or a Donkey Kong 64, but is still related to a Donkey Kong property? Well, if you remember in my past videos, I do mention that leak by Sabby over on Twitter, who doesn't leak anything anymore, but one of his past leaks actually said that there was a game that has tires. Now, of course, Mario Kart is always a possibility when he's talking about that, but the fact that this pops up really makes me think that we may be getting a Diddy Kong Racing 2 maybe, which would be really great. I mean, when was the last time you heard about Diddy Kong Racing? Back on the N64, or no, actually it was the 3DS. They actually remade it for the 3DS. So back on the 3DS was the last time we heard about Diddy Kong Racing. And the last one is a Square Enix property, which could be a number of things, but it will probably be a JRPG since that's kind of Square Enix's go-to game. But I think the question is what kind of JRPG, which is still up in the air, but after the success of Octopath Travelers, I suspect that we'll probably get a retro-inspired game just like that game. Which reminds me, I need to get back to playing that game. So wow, that was a lot to take in, but take this with a grain of salt while you're taking all of that in. This could not be true, but let's say it is true. We all get these crazy games announced at the next Nintendo Direct or whenever Nintendo wants to announce new games. But when can we see these games? Because the Nintendo leaker also says it's going to be soon, or some of these are going to be soon. Well, right now, holiday is coming up in 4 months. We haven't had any Nintendo Direct announcements for a lot of Nintendo Switch games, and a lot of them are TBA or 2021 or 2020. So Nintendo would be telling us the exact dates fairly soon, I would think, especially for those 2020 games since there's not much left of 2020. I highly doubt they would shadow drop games that are slated for 2020. And as Kaleo said, who leaked the Nintendo Direct, Nintendo split the Directs in two. And then you have the King Zell leak saying that there are 2 Nintendo Directs in August, and you can kind of see what could potentially happen. Because again, this could be fake. But dang, do I want to believe. Now, if these are true, I would think a lot of these were supposed to be revealed at E3, along with obvious games like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Metroid Prime 4, which would set up 2020 and 2021 along with new hardware just in time for the next generation. Geez, E3 would have been huge if this is true. It would have been probably one of the best E3s in a very long time, as a Nintendo fan anyways. Now, I don't think we're going to get new hardware in 2020 or 2021, definitely not 2020. The Switch, even though the lack of Switch news is happening, it's still selling amazing, so I think the smartest move for Nintendo would be to create a Switch Pro or a more powerful Switch, and then grow it for another 3 to 4 years and then maybe a new console, and if this comes true, I honestly might shed a tear of joy. And on a side note, I've also started a Patreon, so if you want to support me on Patreon and what I create on this channel other than watching and liking and commenting, which thanks, when you do that, it helps a lot. It helps the videos get pushed by the YouTube algorithm. The link to that will be pinned in the comment along with my Twitter if you're not following me on Twitter yet, which is the best way to interact with me if you want to interact with me through any news that's happening. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Rob Gaming for more gaming news, Nintendo leaks, and rumors, and of course other Nintendo news whenever we get Nintendo news. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, stay safe, stay charged, and have a good one.